Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and we are back with another album review. I know it's been a few months. I'm going to keep it short because I'm sure that a few of you are not here to hear about me or anything like that. You're just here to hear some random guy's review of the new Clay Walker album. To keep it short, I moved. I live in a different state now. I have a new job. And basically it's been very difficult to find time to make YouTube videos. So that's why it's been a long time. But when I saw this news drop, I knew that I had to make a video. Of course, I'm talking about the Clay Walker brand new album called Texas to Tennessee that just released today. I am recording this on July 30th, 2021. When this will be uploaded, I don't know, could be a while with my, editing schedule and all that. But yes, I'm recording this on the day the album released. I just listened to it. I took some notes. And man, it has been a heck of a year for 1990s country artists releasing new albums. Obviously, Alan Jackson has probably taken up the most attention with his album, Where Have You Gone? We also got a new album from Travis Tritt a couple months ago. And we also got the first of 3 planned albums set to release this year from Tracy Lawrence, and his second of that trio of albums is due out in just a couple weeks, I believe. So yeah, man, the 1990s country singers have been going all out this year so far, and Clay Walker is just one of several now to release a new project, and so of course I was looking forward to this. I really enjoy Clay Walker's 1990s album, starting with his self-titled debut in 1993, If I Can Make a Living in 1994, Hypnotize the Moon 95, Rumor Has It 97. He did a great job of blending the neo-traditional sound of the era, the strong fiddle and steel guitar, the typical traditional song concepts, but blending that in with sort of more of a contemporary or commercial sound. You could see that on some of his hits like What's It to You or This Woman and This Man, where they do have some traditional elements like steel guitar, good lyricism, unmistakably country instrumentation, but blended with very catchy choruses and sort of, poppier song, structures and tempos and stuff like that. And so I say that to, illustrate that Clay Walker was part of the neo-traditional wave that came through in the late 1980s and early 1990s, but he definitely always was commercial leaning, sort of, pop country adjacent, you could say. And for that reason, he actually had a pretty decent career longevity. A lot of country artists that were popular in the 1990s, what happened to them is what happens to a lot of artists in most, music genres. Whenever you're part of, a wave where you have a certain period of success, maybe 4 to 5 years where you're really cranking out the hits, you've got lots of hit albums, but of course eventually that well dries up and you sort of get put out to pasture. Of course, most country artists are not going to be George Strait, where they have 4 decades of top 10 hits, and it's not until they're in like their 60s that the hits dry up. Most artists in country music and any genre are going to have, if they're lucky, a few years of success, a few hits to put under the belt, and that's the period of the success that they have. But Clay Walker, he was not relegated to just being a 1990s hit maker. Into the 2000s, he continued having hits, and his most recent hit was actually, I believe, 2010 or 2011, She Won't Be Lonely Long. Great song. So yeah, for Clay Walker, from his first number 1, What's It to You, to his most recent hit, top 10 country hit, She Won't Be Lonely Long, that's almost 20 years. So, that's a pretty great, period of longevity to go from, your debut single going to number 1 in 1993, almost 20 years later, you get another top 10 hit. That's dope. Most artists in any genre would love to have, nearly 2 decades of being able to produce hits and climbing up the charts. But of course, with that being his most recent hit, it has been a bit of a dry spell for Clay Walker over the past decade, and that's really not surprising once, country artists are no longer young and the most handsome guy on the block in the world of country music. It's a lot like pop music where eventually new artists come along and supplant the old generation. And, with the 2000s, Clay Walker was actually pretty lucky to continue getting hits because, of course, there was another wave of male country artists coming in to supplant the Hat Act era. And, of course, definitely with the bro country era, all of that stuff completely swept out the window. We got a brand new class of male and female country artists to really stake their claim in the country music world. And so Clay Walker and all the artists of his generation have now been long out of season. But of course, as I said, Clay Walker is not as far removed from his commercial prime as someone like Tracy Lawrence or Alan Jackson. And because of his, pop country leanings that he has flirted with in the past, he is actually in a better position to attempt a comeback than someone like Travis Tritt would be. And that is a bit of foreshadowing as to what the sound of this album is going to be. But this album has been hyped up for a few months. He released, I think, 3 to 4 pre-release singles. I really don't like it when artists do that, when they release, a ton of singles beforehand. I think if you release 1 single, maybe 2 singles before the release of your album, that's ideal. That's how it used to be back in the day. What artists do now, where they release like half the track list before the album, I think that's just really, really stupid. But what I really do like, and I really got excited when I pulled up my phone today on Spotify and I saw the track list, it is 10 songs and it comes in at just under half an hour. That alone is super old school and super traditional. Of course, nowadays, and I actually made a video about this in my deluxe albums Need to Stop, or whatever the video is called, rant video that I did. But what artists do nowadays is they release like albums with 15 to 20 something tracks, and then they release a deluxe edition with even more songs. And of course, it is a commercial ploy to boost streaming numbers. The more songs you have on an album, the more streams the album will get. Supposedly that'll boost the sales. I mean, apparently it works, because artists keep releasing these deluxe albums and boosting the track list and extending it past 20 songs. And even the Alan Jackson album, 20 songs. That was a long album. And to see a modern country album only be 10 songs long, coming in at just about half an hour, that's how it used to be before, the 2000s, or the CD and streaming era, before the iTunes era, where artists would release albums with 10, 11, maybe even fewer songs, 5 songs on side A, 5 songs on side B, and that was the album. Albums were like, 30 minutes to 40 minutes, and that's how long an album was. You didn't have albums that were 25 songs and 2 hours long. That just didn't happen. And so I like that Clay Walker released a short album, but in reality, it's just a traditionally structured album. And I think it shows that he has confidence in the material, that he's saying, I don't need to supplement this album concept with like 20 songs just to boost the numbers to try and get a hit. I have these 10 songs. I'm going to stick with them. I think that's actually pretty cool. And so now we're going to get into the track by track breakdown. Track number 1 is Anything to Do With You. Some steel guitar in the background, but not a very traditional song. Definite mid-2000s, early 2010s vibes, and that does kind of make sense for Clay Walker, kind of picking up where he left off in terms of when his last period of success was. So definitely pop country leaning. This would have fit right in with radio like 10, 15 years ago. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a decent track. And the woo-woos in the background during like the verses and the chorus, really annoying, and they definitely add to like the pop feel to it. I really didn't like those. I don't think those should have been in there at all. Track number 2 is Need a Bar Sometime. This was promoted heavily as a single before release, probably the most successful single that was released ahead of this album. You got a drum machine beat in the intro and the verses. That's never a good sign. It's a very modern track production wise. And Clay Walker has had a few songs over the last few years where he definitely seems like he's chasing trends, trying to fit in with the modern country landscape, trying to get a hit. I definitely think this is one of those songs. And it's a little too obvious, a little too try hard, which I really don't like. I will also say that the guitar solo was cut way too short. The tone of whoever the lead guitarist was really, really good, but it cut off promptly. I was hoping it would be like a full-length guitar solo. That would have added to the track a lot, but it quickly got cut out. And so instrumentally, very modern production, nothing really great sticking out about this song. Like I said, a very obvious attempt of trying to get a hit on modern country radio. Wasn't digging it. Just a 6 out of 10 for me. Track number 3 is Catching Up with an Old Memory. Really formulaic. I'm shocked that he went in this direction. That's what I wrote in the notes. I wrote really shocked that he went in this direction. There's some steel guitar in the background, but that does not take away from the fact that this is a definite attempt at getting a pop country hit. And so right away, we're just not off to a good start in my opinion. Track number 4, Countryside, only a 6 out of 10. We have a brief snap track intro. Why, dude? You don't need to be doing this. Very generic lyrics. And at this point, I was getting very disappointed. 4 tracks in, all of them have pretty much been attempts at pop country hits. I was really disappointed, especially after Tracy Lawrence and Alan Jackson brought in really excellent showings with their albums. I was really hoping Clay Walker would really bring the traditional 90s sound back, and that has not been what has happened so far. But thankfully, track number 5 is Cowboy Loves a Woman, 8.5 out of 10, best song on the album in my opinion, first good track on the album. It's a nice mix of like an acoustic 90s style guitar melody with some modern production touches. Good song. This is how you sort of bring the 90s sound into the modern era. The light and soft production really helps the song. You got a good guitar melody, and I like that the drums are not super in your face. With the bro country era and definitely the Florida Georgia line, wall of sound production style, drum machines, and just, the stereotypical like mid-tempo country backbeat has been really overpowering. You get these like really driving beats. And so I like that this song is actually a bit more stripped down, a bit more laid back. It really helps. If this song had super boisterous like pop production, it really would have brought the whole thing down. But I like that this song is more stripped back and really sets it apart from all the previous songs on the track list. So right away, this song stood out to me. Very good song. Track number 6 is the title track, Texas to Tennessee. I heard this before the album released, and it is a solid song. I was really excited when I heard this, because when I heard this, I was like, man, this is the title track. I'm hoping Clay Walker really brings it old school with this album. Of course, as I have talked about in my reviews of the first 4 songs, that was not the case, but this is a great song. 8 out of 10 for me. Good steel guitar on this track. It is similar to Cowboy Loves a Woman, actually, in terms of tempo and sort of structure. So maybe he could have put it somewhere else in the track list, but that's my only complaint, is that, I don't know if I would have put these 2 songs that sound pretty similar right after each other, but these 2 songs are definitely the best 2 songs on the album, no doubt about it. I Just Want to Hold You is track number 7. This was also released as a single before the album. I had not heard this one yet. And in the intro, we have a hand clap beat, not a snap track, but like, the typical like bro country hand claps. Come on, man. We get more generic lyrics about pride in the country lifestyle, loving your girlfriend or wife, not wanting to chase riches, just wanting to, be with your girl. I just want to hold you. And, I understand the appeal of songs like this, and it is a positive, good moral message. But and I know that y'all can agree with me on this and y'all can relate to this. We have so freaking many of these songs in country nowadays. It's just the amount of generic, sappy love songs that are dominating country now. It's just ridiculous. It's like one after the other, so many, and it's like it actually gets infuriating. We also get another short steel guitar solo. Sadly, that does not take away from the obvious pop country production of this song. We actually do get a lot of steel guitar on this album. That is one thing I will say. Clay Walker definitely brought the steel onto this album. Not much fiddle, but a lot of steel guitar. Normally that'd be a good thing, but really it just feels like background. It does not take away from the fact that a lot of these are just blatant pop country hit attempts. Loving You Then is a bit misleading because you got a bit of crying steel guitar in the intro. It got me hyped, but more generic lyrics. Yet another bland, sappy love song. And what happened to all these heartbreak songs? And Clay Walker had some excellent heartbreak songs back in his commercial prime. Where Do I Fit in the Picture? My Heart Will Never Know. Where Were You? Clay Walker can bring the heartbreak. He's a very good singer. He can definitely convey a lot of emotion in his voice. To see him go full tilt into, the generic sappy love song territory, the boyfriend country territory, pretty disappointing. Actually, probably more steel guitar in this song than any of the other songs on the track list, but again, that's not improved much on the pop country production style. 6 out of 10, not a good track. You Look Good, track number 9. We get a snap track intro. Why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. The groove is somewhat catchy, but it's definitely a generic mid-2010 sounding country song. Disappointing. 6.5 out of 10. And then one more is the final track. It's really a short one. It's less than 2.5 minutes long. 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's an up-tempo country rocker. Lots of kind of overdriven guitar in this one. Definitely leans more into, I wouldn't call it like a southern rock, but it's almost more of a rock song than a country song. It's pop country, but it's less bro-ish. Kind of sounds like something that Billy Currington or Dierks Bentley maybe even Joe Nichols might have done in the 2000s. Definitely has like that 2000s kind of rock mixed country vibe. There was lots of, country rock during that era. And so it kind of sounds like it was pulled directly out of, 15 years ago or something like that. But that's the album, just 10 tracks, short, like I said, coming in at just under half an hour. And the total album score out of 100 points is 68. So not exactly high marks for Clay Walker here. And so it's funny how I gave this album a very similar score to the Travis Tritt album Set in Stone, which I reviewed a couple months ago. But I gave Set in Stone a 67.7%, so basically the same score. Yet I have issues with these two albums for opposite reasons. I disliked a lot of that Travis Tritt record because, in my opinion, a lot of those songs were dry, very boring. They were repetitive of stuff that Travis Tritt had done in the past, and a lot of those songs just lacked any sort of drive or energy to them. They were just kind of flat and boring. Yet on the opposite side of things, I take issue with this Clay Walker album because so many of these songs are blatantly overproduced, just obvious trend chasing here by an artist that really does not need to do that. Clay Walker has a very strong discography. He's had a very strong catalog of hits. He does not need to be chasing modern trends like this to try and, supplement his discography or his back catalog even more. And so in a way, these two albums show the trap that veteran artists can fall into in any genre of music once their commercial prime has passed. And there are sort of two parallel traps here. One, and this is what Travis Tritt fell into, they can remain stagnant and they can release music that is generic and low energy. Clint Black, I would say, also is starting to fall into that category. Or they can do what Clay Walker is seeming to do here, which is betraying their past success by chasing modern trends and trying to fit into a new era that they just don't fit into. Like, as much as I like Clay Walker and as great as his voice is, and as much as he, again, has had the potential to, have had crossover hits in the past, he's not gonna outclass Morgan Wallen or Luke Combs or even someone that's more of a traditionalist singer like John Pardee or Cody Johnson on the charts now. That's just not going to happen. And so, as I said, Clay Walker is at a point in his career where it's been nearly 30 years since his debut album. He shouldn't feel the need to score another big hit to complete his career. He sold millions of albums. And one reason why I liked the new Alan Jackson and Tracy Lawrence albums in comparison to this Clay Walker album and the Travis Tritt album is because somehow Tracy Lawrence and Alan Jackson were able to produce albums that did not betray their roots, yet simultaneously brought just a fresh new energy to add on to their respective legacies. It didn't feel like either Alan Jackson or Tracy Lawrence were trying too hard to get a hit, but it also didn't seem like they were stuck in the rut of repeating tired song concepts. They didn't seem like they were just trying to riff off old ideas or like they were uninspired or low energy. They were really solid albums, I felt like. There are a few good songs in this Clay Walker album, and I don't really think any of the songs were flat out terrible either. It's not like any of these were like a Walker Hayes, level atrocity. There was nothing on here where I was like, oh my gosh, this song sucks. And on top of that, he sounds fantastic vocals wise. I gotta make a note of that. He sounds excellent. Maybe it's a stretch to say that he hasn't aged a bit. Obviously, maybe his voice has gotten a little bit lower since his younger days, but I do think that he sounds excellent. For being nearly 30 years in the game, he sounds really good. But sadly, what we see here is an excellent, iconic 1990s country artist that is choosing to chase after modern trends rather than reflecting on and building off what made them great in the first place. And so a few of these songs are going to be added to my country playlist. I did like a couple of those songs, including the title track, but I simply cannot give this album a positive endorsement. There's just some obvious trend chasing that cannot really be ignored, and so that's why the album does not really get that high of a score. But definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think of this new Clay Walker album, Texas to Tennessee? Do you agree with me? Do you think he's chasing trends and this is kind of beneath him, or do you think that maybe this is a good direction for him to go in? Let's have a conversation about this, and make sure to like this video and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching.